Today I'm here with Keisha Lee, a messaging mentor, speaker, actress, and the founder of Striking Statements. Striking Statements is a creative communications agency that helps socially conscious entrepreneurs and creatives craft their brand messaging. Keisha believes that everyone has a statement to make, but it's the striking statements that get you noticed, remembered, and paid. Keisha, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to see you again. We met, for those of you listening, back in 2018. Keisha had held a awesome workshop for an organization that we were both kind of part of called the Rising Tide Society. So their whole mission is community over competition, building relationships with other women in the entrepreneurial communities locally across the US. And so I'm so happy that we've kept in touch, and it's so cool to see where you are now. And I'm so happy to catch up with you today.
Yeah, likewise. It's been a while, and it's so fascinating to just keep in touch and to watch each other's journeys, through social media. and you just never know where the opportunities and when your paths will cross again, so I'm really excited about this.
Yeah, I love that you always have been such a pillar in this community. Like, I remember we have a co-working space specific to female entrepreneurs called Hera Hub here in the local San Diego. And I think they're now, larger. They have a few different franchise locations, but you did a workshop there, like you did Rising Tide, you've done various speaking events and workshops. And I just love to see you giving back to the community in that way, because I think so many people need to hear your message.
Yeah, thank you.
Yay.
Yeah, and messaging. Can I hop right into because I was thinking about this just over the past couple days anyway, just in having different conversations with people about what it is I do and why. Like it comes to that why. Why do you do what you do? And honestly, we do all have statements to make. We make them all the freaking time, right? So when you're conscious of how people are looking at you, or if you are in this space that you want to curate, you do want people to look at you in a certain way, right? That's personal branding. It's about teaching people how to perceive you. It's not about, let's talk about being fake and being authentic, because that goes, we hear that a lot, right? And now people are fake or using authentic to cover their fakeness. So let's just get to the point of going back to the why, is that I feel like no matter who you are, where you're from, what you do, what your family background looks like, it's our desire and birthright to be truly understood and heard.
Oh,
And
I
so
just got chills. Just take a moment. Say that again. I just got chills. Oh.
no matter who you are, it's your desire in your birthright to be truly understood and heard, right?
So
You got
true.
it. And when we're courageous, like you, the women in your community, to say, yes, I'm going to walk this path loudly. I'm going to declare who I am and what I'm here to do. Right? That takes courage. When you have that tenacity to do that, then yes, you're messaging about who you work with, why what you do matters, the solution it provides. It must be clear so that the right people can hear you, so that the right people can feel you.
I love it so much. I love it so much because, we're not going to get into the conversation on fake versus authentic, or who's
No.
genuine and who's fluffy or whatever. But I know that for myself, I mean, you've kind of seen my business journey from like the rose gold everything and the hot pink and this and that, and just something that wasn't authentic to who I was when I was starting my personal brand with Let's Get You Organized. And I feel like over the past 3 years, it takes time, right? And it's a constant journey. There's no end point. It's a lifelong thing. But with me, I think I have reached the point where I just don't care anymore. Like, I think at the beginning it was very like, well, I have to be this because so and so says this, or so and so guru said to do that. And so I was so lost in by the time I had gone from point A to point B, I was like, where the heck am I? Because this isn't me. And so that took a lot to kind of destroy everything and tear everything down. And that in itself was painful. But hey, I came out of the rubble and I'm like, yo, this is actually who I am. This is the true Melissa. So I love everything you do. Can you tell us about how you like operationalize that with your clients?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the thing that makes me unique in what I do is that I do a combination of coaching. So I call it messaging mentorship, but it is about looking at your mindset. The people I work with are evolving. So that's one thing that never changes, Melissa. With this wild ride of entrepreneurship, the one thing that you can count on is your evolution to your next level, right? Am I right? Can I get an amen?
Amen. It is so
Amen.
true.
Right?
I think like there's so many variations and there's so much to dig deep into. And it's like the deeper you go, the murkier into like the depths of your soul you go, the more craziness you find, but also the more gems you find. And I just love that it continues to evolve like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, with that mindset and that messaging mentorship, it's just really like looking at how you can say one thing, but how we can really fill that bridge, that gap between where you are and where you want to be. And it does begin with, the branding and all the touch points of what you're saying. Is it aligned? Are you even speaking to the people you really want to work with? Right. So it's looking at that. So we start with this core messaging revamp. And it's like a combination of your unique selling proposition, your value statement, mission statement. It's a combination of all of that. And what we do is we get it clear, we revamp it, we look at your ideal client avatars, we redefine that. And then from there, that's like, boom, we've got this big core message, right? And from that, there's messaging themes that we have that I extract, that I give you. And then it is used as a flexible container, that allows you to do what you want within it, but allows you to be consistent, because consistency is the key, right? When it comes to anything, really. Even if it's small steps, larger steps, you gotta build that foundation and keep moving. So the more you do that, the more expansive you feel. So that's how it works. But my company, we do website copy, we do email campaigns. I have monthly clients who, I am the eyes and the voice, behind it. Like, I look at everything. Nothing goes out without Keisha taking a look and ensuring that, that it is cohesive. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we all need like a Keisha in our back pocket to make sure that like we're aligned in the messaging, because I think that's like the key is you start by building that foundation with your clients where it truly is coaching at that point, because A, you have to get to know them. B, you have to ask them the tough questions that maybe they haven't thought about before. And then C, you got to get to like finding those themes that maybe they couldn't see before. So it's almost like these blind spots that we sort of walk through as business owners, and we need that outside opinion because we get in our own heads, right? We get in our own selves, and of course our business as an entrepreneur is always like our baby, right? Oh, of course our baby's the cutest baby, and of course we're the mom of this baby, and we never want it to give it up or do anything with it. And so to have that objective opinion, it's like you have to A, be open to coaching, but B, be able to shift and pivot and evolve, because maybe where you started is not where you're meant to be.
Right, exactly. And it does take that openness of saying, okay, again, the people I work with, they have been in business for a bit, 3 years, 4 years. So they've learned, they've seen what's not working. They're in a rebrand or a pivot and are saying, yes, what I have to give is so much bigger than me. And I want that impact, but I know I don't know everything. And I think that's such a key for scaling, for growing, for being a good leader, is to know where and when you need to get the help and support. So I'm glad to support in that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so key. It's so key too, because when you think of like that client demographic that you have of like kind of the 3 years, 4 years in, I think that is the point too, where we see a lot of statistics of, most businesses. I do a lot of volunteering with SCORE, which is part of the US Small Business Administration. We always throw up these statistics. I never remember any of them because I'm not a numbers person, but there's like all these crazy statistics of how many businesses last past the 2-year mark, the 3-year mark, the 4-year mark, how many make it to the 5-year mark is astonishingly low. And I love that you can kind of swoop in like, okay, you're here, they're probably kind of in a rut, like you said, or they're, in a transition period, in a pivoting period. And so for you to come in with that fresh set of eyes and that energy, what I love most about you is that energy that you bring to it. Do you find that your clients are just like revived after going through the striking statements programs?
I think so. And yes, I feel like it's eye-opening. It's like, okay, I didn't know we were going here, but like, wow, I'm so glad. I'm glad. Because yeah, it does need that other perspective. You only know when you're so close to something. You only know what you know, you see what you see, even though you may desire something else. And so I love helping to clarify and to actually show them, like you had mentioned, blind spots or those gaps in knowledge, to just say like that you went through this experience. It's also about story, right? It's about looking at their life experiences and selecting the experiences that have really, really lended themselves to who they are now, who've shaped them, right? Our life journeys shape us, but it's really hard. It can be hard to realize that that was something remarkable that you went through. You're like, oh yeah, I did that, but it's not that big of a deal. I'm here to say, no, that's life changing for somebody. Let's infuse that, So I love that as well.
Yeah. And I think just as a consumer, I love seeing that. I love seeing those behind the scenes posts on, Instagram or Facebook or even LinkedIn of, hey, I started from here, now I'm here, or this is how I got over this hard moment, or even just simply, this is what I'm going through right now. And really humanizing these businesses, especially if you're a solopreneur or a small business owner in the creative community. I think it's so crucial for clients to get to know you and like you and trust you. And I know myself, I can't know you, like you, or trust you until I see behind the Instagram grid or the pretty glossy, photos or whatever it is. Like I want to get to know that person and connect with them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And with so much that we're bombarded with in all areas, social media, obviously, it's got its place, but we are bombarded with so much information all the time that our brains have gotten, we can tell when things are fluff. We can see when it's surface level. And that's why I feel like consumers, if you're looking at trends, like they want to know, even with bigger brands, they want to know the story behind like this. What's your mission? Can I align with this? I want to see you. I want to see your heart, you know? And so that's what I'm really about, like the essence, like bringing the essence of who you are. Because
I think it,
when you can do that, the energy behind your words are more activating. It shifts the power of them, you know?
it's such a game changer, I think, too, for business owners to reach that point where, like you said, maybe they've gone through these not even traumatic or crazy life experiences, but just gone through life, right? Life has happened over the past 20, 30, maybe 40 years. And so when I started telling the story about growing up in a hoarding household, and that's how Let's Get You Organized came to be, I think for me, that was a huge game changer because before I started telling those stories, I kind of like buried that story within me. And it was almost like shameful, like, oh, I grew up in one of these hoarding households, just like the show Hoarders, and oh, how could you live that way and things like that. But it's like, no, no, no. Like, A, I got myself out of that situation, and B, look how I am now, where I'm actually serving the community and helping these types of people that have gotten themselves into these situations in their homes. And so for me, that was a huge game changer because I think it gave me more confidence in speaking to my story
Mhm.
and was able to loop in my community at the same time. So I just love it so much.
Yeah, no, and I remember when you started sharing that, and I'm like, oh my goodness, oh, that makes sense. Oh, okay, well, I that, talk about know, like, and trust. I mean, I already liked you and trust you, but like for your people, like that's, how much more of evidence do you need to say she understands where I may be, right? Or have been, because she's been there and she's on the other side. So why wouldn't I trust somebody who knows where I am now and has taken the steps to learn and hone and fine tune to get on the other side? Yes, I want her to show me. I will follow you. You
I
know?
love it. I love it. And I think like this is just so needed. It's such a needed service. Now, I understand you've been in business for a while. Can you tell us like a few different things of at the beginning, if you think back, how did you come up with your business name? And then how did you brand it out? Like, how did you come up with your fonts, your colors, your logos? I'm sure there's been iterations since then, just like most of us, that it kind of evolves and pivots throughout the years. But tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so the concept of the name Striking Statements came to me when I was working as a public relations manager for the world's largest credit union, which is Navy Federal. Um, and while it was a good job, it wasn't dynamic. It was actually the place that really showed me, because of my role, I was able to work with a variety of levels, like the CEO. I was in executive manager meetings, and then I would work with branch managers across the world, and then I could work with customer service people. So I was like around all levels of the organization, within the organization. And that's where I saw like, when it came to relaying information, was good at it. People, no matter the audience, I was able to translate those things in a relatable way. But I also saw that not everybody was able to do that, and how detrimental it could be when you don't, right? In terms, no matter how talented you may be, if you just cannot convey your message clearly, in a way that people understand, then it's just going to bypass them, and it's just not going to be effective. So during that time, that's where I was really like, okay, there is a need here, and I think I might be the person to help. But at that time, the name, it was like, I knew I wanted something that stood out. I knew I wanted something that summed up what I was, really what I was and what I did. And I don't know, I just kind of played around. It took a couple days, I think, kind of daydreaming. It wasn't anything heavy or stressful. I was just like, would this work? Would that work? And then I came up with Striking Statements. And I will tell you, out of like all the decisions I've had to make over the years, my business name was a winner, like from the start. Like from the start. I think that was A1. And then, okay, so initially I did Striking Statements as a way to help people curate special milestone events. So I wouldn't call myself an event planner, but I did curate some special things like anniversary dinners and like a book signing kind of event. And I was just playing initially. Come 2008, this was like 2007, 2008 happened, which was a big market, like housing market, but it was not a good year for a lot of people, let's just say, right? In 2008. And I was not excluded from that. Financially, I was okay, but I actually had, my daughter was 5 at the time. And then I became pregnant with my son. And I was already thinking, am I ready to step out on my own? No, kind of scary, not sure. But when I got pregnant, I thought, oh, I could go on maternity leave and just leave. So, and it was around that time. Well, that's what I did. And I had all these ideas. Oh, I can focus on growing Striking Statements, and maybe it will shift, and I'll take care of the kids, and then their dad can do his thing. And then it didn't work out that way. Let's just say, for one, my son, actually, he was born with a rare genetic disorder, and he lived for 6 months. And so the 6 months of his life, it was truly my dedication just to loving him and understanding his needs and accepting a lot of what I couldn't control. And that was a big lesson, to really know, had all these plans. It's going to go like this and this and this. And it's like, honey, no, not always. It's about how you take things. It's about how you're able to pivot, to process, and it's about perspective. So after that journey, I'll fast forward to 2009. I took a break. I took a break because then my relationship also crumbled, and so I took a break. But I also at that time discovered Twitter. I was a big fan of Twitter early on, and I that's where I saw so many entrepreneurs, so many people like using their creative genius to monetize it. I'm like, this is legal? Like you all, like this is incredible. Wow. So then I looked at my own talents and my desires for helping others. And I thought, you know what, instead of doing this like curated thing, I think I want to help people help entrepreneurs make striking statements. I want to help those who are awesome at what they do, but need some help in articulating what they do. So that's how it started. And that
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So cool. And I think like the underlying tone in that story and you know, it's just that it evolves. It life is always in flow and you might have a plan, but God, the universe, spirit, whatever you believe in, usually has something else in mind. And I like to believe that it's usually for a higher good and that it's usually, you know, all for a reason. And I know just before we popped on, we kind of, you know, started talking about how life will just kind of redirect. It's just like a gentle nudge, like, oh, no, honey, like you're meant to be over here. Okay, little nudge, you know, and redirect. And I think when you look back at your life's journey, it's so important to recognize those milestones and sort of those catalytic moments. Like, you know, you think of the word catalyst and like what change can happen outside of a life-changing event and the events that follow that and how it unfolds. And sometimes you look back and you go, wow, like, okay, that's how all this happened. That's how I'm here now. And I love that what you're able to do is siphon down all of those mini, you know, when you were telling your story, I'm so visual. I imagine everything like a movie and I can see, you know, all those different scenes of the movie. And
yeah,
so when you're able to do that for other people as truly like the visionary and the creative behind these businesses, I think it just makes so much sense to be able to share all of those little movies and all of those little scenes with the
mhm,
world.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's really how like I got on that path. And actually, you know, one of my clients came through Twitter. I was amazed. She was down in Alabama. You were just mentioning the South. She reached out to me, this doctor in Alabama who was writing a book and needed a nice cover, like a tag line and description for her book. And that's when I was like, okay, this is it. All right. I'm on the right path.
It's always those first clients that I think are such the game changer because we can sit and we can dream and we can journal and we can visualize and we can play and we can, you know, almost like use our imaginations just to kind of create and have fun. But until you make a dollar, sometimes you're just playing, right? You're just in fantasy land. And I think like that is such a necessary piece to every business to take time, take those days off to really dream and take those days off to really, you know, vision set and think about your future and things like that. But I remember when I made my first dollar, I hear it from my clients all the time when they made their first dollar. It's like that's when it becomes real. Like, wow, somebody's going to exchange their money for what I'm offering and get paid to do not only what you love, but what you're good at and be able to share those natural gifts and talents with the world. And so when you got that first paying client, was that the moment that it kind of came together like, ah, I'm on the right track. I can do this?
Yeah, it felt incredible, like that I had made the decision to pivot in that way, and then I didn't even promote it in that way. It was the energy shift, right, in me that she was like, "Hey, do you do taglines?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do taglines." Okay, let's do it. She felt something, and that's why I think that's just so important about your belief in yourself and that self, how that plays that role. But yeah, it made it real. And honestly, up at that point, I had done I was still helping a couple of local businesses with some PR, some writing things, some, I was still, the needle was still like, trying to get really clear. But yeah, after her, yeah, I'm like, this is real.
It's real. Yeah. And I love like listening to those whispers of what the universe has in store for you. It's kind of like, it could be a friend that's asking, hey, can I pay you for this? And you're like, oh my God, I am really good at that. And then it turns into a whole business. Or, there's all these little whispers that if we're paying enough attention to them, we can hear them and we can go with it. And that's where I think the magic happens. It's so cool. Thank God for the lady in Alabama on Twitter.
I know, thank you. And she has kept in touch. She came back again and needed something else. And that's been a trend, as well with many clients. They come back in and, want to do some other thing. So, and that's the way to be.
Yeah. And I think that's, that shows too, like, especially like with home organizing, you're inviting them into the deep, dark depths of your space. It is your sanctuary, it is your nest. And sometimes as an organizer, you're going through, skeletons in the closet, so to speak, or you're going through, weird stuff in nightstands or weird stuff in garages that hasn't been gone through in years and years. And I think when you're able to build that rapport, like I know you do, Keisha, with your clients, and I know a lot of the girls in my programs do this, you get that repeat business because it's like they're attracted to that energy. I think they're not attracted to the tactical, oh, she put a label on a box, right? They could care less, but they're attracted to your energy and how you show up. So I'm going to ask you a question on how do you work with your clients to kind of show that energy when maybe they're not on camera or they're not on video? Like, is there a way to do that? I'm just curious with words, with messaging, how do you do that? Or do you do that?
Okay. So how do I help my clients with the energy, like to have that more impactful, to make the striking statements?
Yeah. Like, how would you so I think a lot of times there's women that are wanting to start a business and they're sort of like on the fence. Maybe they're sort of hesitant, sort of timid, sort of shy, haven't really stepped into their power. But like, if you're working with them, you can probably see like, okay, there's something in there. Like, let's try to pull it out. How do you pull that out and like bring it to life?
Yeah. Part of my process is a call. We get on a call and I chat. It follows an assessment. So I have some intel and I have some very intentional questions on there. So then on the first call, we talk about some of the things on some of their responses, and I let them tell their story. It's amazing how much I can glean and how much I've had clients on our kickoff call who've been in tears, who've been in tears because their dream is so big and they just don't know how they're going to be able to achieve it. Right. And it just feels so complex in their minds is of how am I going to get this out there to the world? And so that's one way to really connect through conversation and through understanding a bit of their journey. The other part, and I think this is a bit where some of my skills come in, is that, a couple of my clients have called me a channeler. Okay. And I know it might sound woo, but it's a matter of being like, did you write that? This totally feels like me. And I think it comes to life from stepping into and understanding the person and also seeing their dreams and their vibe. So I'm all about tone. Like when it comes to your branding, it's about your tone of voice and your uniqueness, what makes you, that personality. Because if we don't explore that and expose that, then you will be dull and disappear and not really be noticeable. So it's about giving them permission. It's about being playful, understanding, empathetic, and also firm and saying, you know what, let's go there. Like if they share a piece of their story, hey, I want to explore that a little bit more, because that definitely makes a difference in, explaining why your whatever it is that you do over here is really a benefit. So It does take time. It is a process. I wouldn't say that after one call, they're like, yeah, I'm ready to go. They might feel enthused, but it's not till, and this is the other part of it, they actually see that messaging. So when you see it, it's like, oh, that helps to make it real as well. And it's just about practicing it, putting it on, implementing it, speaking it, because my messaging, I say, is multi-use messaging. We've heard of MLMs. I do MUMs, multi-use messaging. So the messaging that comes out of the core message revamp, it can be used on your IG profile. It can be used as a bio for, as your podcast. Say you're looking to get more exposure. You can use that. You can use that part of it on discovery calls with your own clients. This is all messaging that you can verbalize, put in on a web page, put on your profile. You've got to live it and breathe it and embody it. That's where that embodiment part comes from.
It matters. Yeah. Messaging matters so much. And it's especially when you're in some sort of service business, or even like one-on-one coaching, one-on-one consulting, creative design, web design, you have to have your messaging down pat. And that is so true. That's so true. I love it. I love what you do so much. Now, before we close, what are some trends maybe that you're seeing with women in business as it pertains to their messaging, their branding, their storytelling efforts? Are there any trends? Are there anything that you see that people typically get hung up on? Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, in terms of some trends that I see, it is all about, especially now, 2021, we have gotten through 2020, which was a doozy for many people in a lot of ways. And even if the outcomes were mainly good, it was a time of self-reflection and being like, what's really important? Let me reevaluate my priorities here, whether it's your peace of mind, it's your health, it's your relationships, it's what you're doing. And so what I've seen with the business owners and entrepreneurs I work with is that, they really are looking at expanding in terms of their services, in terms of their mission. So for example, I have a client who he has a mechanic shop. It's a luxury vehicle repair shop, but it's a repair shop, right? Okay. And we've been working together for a year. This is the thing. One of their core values is give back, community give back, right? And so what he's done, he actually at the end of 2020, he founded a nonprofit. And the nonprofit is all about providing quality skills to those who are either in the recovery community, former inmates, veterans who, these are folks who typically fall through the cracks without the right support, right? Definitely re-entering society or civilian life. It's difficult. And looking at this trade skill being something that could be of benefit. So the messaging on one part is about what they do on the day-to-day, but it's totally shifted to explore who they are, what their values are, what they're doing, what that looks like, improving. This is bigger than us. Thankfully, I have this business, but I want to help more people. So I see that's one example, but I just see this level of seriousness now in terms of, this is my one life, and I really want to do something with it that's really important and impactful. And so, I see that. I see people in that space of, I need some messaging because I'm doing big stuff. And then the other thing in terms of what many times people get hung up on, I actually shared a post yesterday about empowered vulnerability. It's like when you are a solopreneur, you want to share something, going back to sharing parts of our story or experiences we've been through that not a lot of people know about, that could help, but they're get squeamish. I don't want to be unprofessional. I don't want people to look at me like I can't be trusted or I'm a mess, total mess. And I say to that, look, there are certain things you got to look at before you go there, right? And this is why I teach empowered vulnerability when it comes to sharing story. You got to look at, one, have you had enough time to heal from this particular situation? You can still be in the journey of it, but not in the real shit of it. If and that's always That's always something you've got to look at and determine for yourself. But if you feel you're in a place where you can talk about this from a higher perspective, where you have learned some gems, where you come from a wisdom point of view, then okay, that's empowered vulnerability. Number two, if it's something that you feel that somebody else could benefit from, right? If somebody can benefit from hearing the journey, seeing the lesson, seeing who you are now, then that's another thing. And then the third part of this empowered vulnerability, it's just entrusting. It's entrusting that this experience was for you to be able to serve as a testament to others, right? And so when you look at those things in that way, it doesn't feel so off-putting or intimidating to share in a way that really connects. And really what it does is it really establishes your authority on that particular thing that you do. And people want real. We already talked about this. People are looking for that real connection. They're looking for the humanness, and being human is not all perfectly coiffed and curated all the damn time. We have tools for that shit, but that's not real life. And so yeah.
Amen again. Mic drop. Yeah. I love your realness. And I think like what always cracks me up, Keisha, is when I go to somebody's Instagram page or even somebody's Facebook business page or Twitter page or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
They have zero photos of themselves, zero descriptions of themselves, zero who the heck's page is this? It kills me because I'll go and connect with a new page and say, wow, they have really great content. And they, maybe they have 200, 300 followers. They're growing their brand, they're growing their business. And their header photo is a logo. It's not a picture of them. And then I scroll all the way down into the feed, maybe 100 different posts. Never once have done like an intro post or, hey, this is who's behind the page. And from the perspective of the consumer that needs to know, like, and trust them in order to hire them and pay them for their natural gifts and talents, and that they're trying to serve the world, it's like, it kills me to see that they're hiding, almost like they're hiding behind the curated I love how you said coiffed. You must have spoken French at some point because you said that perfectly. But like, yeah, I just, the curated stuff for me, I think is starting to go away. It's starting to not be as trendy. And I think people really are starting to embrace vulnerability more, which is great to see.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing, Melissa, one other thing, when people start with me, my clients, it does also with that core messaging revamp, we look at, what do you stand for? Like, it really, you gotta go there, and even if you write it down, I have a manifesto, an I Stand manifesto, that it is about looking at what you value, what's important to you, perhaps what's not. But as long as you're clear in that and you let that be your North Star, that's going to help you with the curation, with the solutions that you have, with the offers or programs, or even the partnerships that you choose to do, the opportunities that you choose to say yes to or no to. That's truly going to serve you. And the more of you that you can bring to anything, the more that you will be able to see who the real people are for you. Right? Yeah.
It's like you become magnetic to the people that are meant to find you, and then you repel the people that maybe aren't meant to be in your audience. And there's so much magic. I could talk to you for 5 hours. So where can people find you? Because I know so many people are going to be so eager to check out what you're doing at Striking Statements. Where can people find you?
Yes. So I love hanging out on Instagram and Facebook. Instagram at Striking Statements. Facebook, Striking Statements, Facebook page, and Keisha Lee. And then strikingstatements.com is my website. So you can go there, check it out, get in touch with me should you want, and we can play.
I love it. Infusing more play, more fun into the business. It doesn't all have to be so serious. When you find yourself in a transitory period or in a pivot or in a rut, you can infuse play and fun and Keisha's amazing ball of energy into it and really make magic happen. So thank you so much, Keisha, for being here today. I'm so excited to see what you do next.
Oh, and likewise, this has been so much fun. Thank you.
Yay. Thank you so much. Okay, everyone, stay tuned for next week's episode. New episodes come out every Wednesday. Make sure you're subscribed.